Okay, well, thanks for coming, folks. We're here to talk about a federal government program that will give sex survivors money from Backpage.com if they were trafficked there. You're going to hear from our prosecutor who's in charge of our sex crimes division. It's J.R. Ujifusa, spelled just like it sounds, and he'll explain that as well. And also Robin Miller, who is a sex trafficking survivor and now helps other women get out of the trade. So without further ado, here's J.R.
Thanks, Pat, and thanks for being here. Let me first spell and state my name, J.R. Ujifusa. My last name is spelled U-J-I-F-U-S-A. You guys all got that?
He's a senior deputy.
Oh, sorry, yes. My position, I'm a senior deputy district attorney. I supervise the human trafficking team and the strategic prosecution unit here at the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. For 14 years, from 2004 to 2008, Backpage dominated the internet as a place for traffickers to sell victims and buyers to purchase human beings. The impact and trauma of this website has left thousands of individuals in our community with lasting issues and trauma and in need of support. That trauma is real and cannot be understated or overstated. For 17 years as the head of our human trafficking team, I have witnessed the bravery and courage of victims entering this courthouse to relive some of the most traumatizing times of their life, to hold traffickers and buyers accountable. And I want to know that this office, those individuals who work in this office and myself stand with you and alongside you. When this office heard that the U.S. Department of Justice created a program to pay victims who had been exploited on Backpage.com, we wanted to get the word out to the community, to the thousands of victims in our community who have been exploited by this website. Through searching our databases, we have identified over 1,200 individuals that we believe may have been exploited, may have been used on Backpage.com either as minors or adults. And as we know, many adults who have been exploited and trafficked started out as minors between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. The way in which we wanted to get the word out to the community was through a multifaceted approach and program. So besides mailers sending out ways in which to apply for this money, we are creating a website on our webpage on our website that will give victims who have been exploited on Backpage.com and those sister websites an opportunity to apply, as well as an opportunity to find legal counsel for free that will help them navigate the federal program. It was amazing to watch individuals from the elected district attorney all the way down to staff jump in for a great cause, stuffing envelopes, folding papers in order to get these envelopes ready to be mailed out to individuals in our community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Robin Miller, who is a friend but also a survivor and advocate, to talk about how Backpage has affected those she's worked with. Robin?
Thank you. Thank you, JR. Hi, my name is Robin Miller, R-O-B-I-N-M-I-L-L-E-R. Like JR said, I am a survivor of the commercial sex trade. I'm a lived experience expert. I was trafficked through the system of prostitution by a third party. He identified himself as my pimp. I was trafficked in the 90s in Portland, all up and down the I-5 corridor, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I was trafficked in Nevada, Arizona, and Hawaii. I was trafficked for 6 years. I have spent over 10 years now serving victims and survivors of trafficking and prostitution, sex trades, and when I was asked to stand up here, I was very honored. I can't tell you how this feels to stand next to this many representation of victims and survivors who have been exploited here in our county and likely this state. I'm asking myself this morning how many of these envelopes are representative of children who were bought and sold on Backpage. I want to remind everybody why Backpage was shut down. They were selling children, and men were buying children and women and vulnerable populations off the website for years. While I was not bought and sold off of Backpage, I have served children, again, who were. Children who end up in juvenile detention, women who ended up in criminal cases and such. Often, most of the times also, because Multnomah County really addresses this issue the way I see fit, they definitely go after the buyer and after the trafficker. I can't remember exactly the year, but they have not arrested an individual for prostitution. Goodness, I think 10 years. That says a lot. The things that happen on the streets happen to women and girls and vulnerable populations, boys. The same things happen to them when they're bought off Backpage. You cannot regulate harm or death from the sex trade. I support individuals who identify as sex workers. I do not support that terminology. I believe that anybody who is bought and sold off of this website deserves recompense. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a therapist, I'm not all those things. While I have served hundreds and hundreds of people, oftentimes I hear things that they should be talking about in those offices. But I would suggest that if you are, this is a government agency who is receiving information. It would be of your best interest not to lie or, do anything illegal in trying to assert yourself for any, financial gain. This is specifically for folks who have been trafficked, bought and sold against their will. And what that includes is children. Children cannot consent to sex for any kind of anything of value. And so, yes, I'm kind of at the end. I did, again, I was in the trade I was trafficked for 6 years. When I came out, there wasn't any sort of help. We have so much to offer. We have so many services. We support victims, survivors. If they want to be in it, they don't want to be in it. That's what where my heart is. But for the people who buy and sell, I don't think that, I'm glad that their money is going back into the hands of those that they did that to, they harmed.
Robin, maybe for folks who've not heard from someone like you, can you talk about sort of the fantasy of what it's like versus the reality of being trafficked on the streets?
Oh, well, on the streets, let me tell you, the fantasy is what you see on the media. It's what you see on television shows. It's on the billboards. It's the Carl's Jr. burger in a bikini. But what I see on the streets, and I have been out on the streets with Portland police, I was actually trafficked on the streets. I was never in a warm room, which I don't think is any safer. But what I see on the streets today, and what I did, is walked around in the grapple, snow and ice, or snow and rain, or snow and hail, I think, in basically barefoot, in lingerie. I would not have done that unless I had a pimp who made me do that. I don't think that the folks who are out on our streets today want to be out there in bikinis. If they want to be there, they probably have some warmer clothes. I can tell you because men will still buy them. Have on a garbage bag, and men will still buy them. I was addicted to crack cocaine at the end of my exploitation. I have mugshots, and so one thing I also want to point out, I have been, in the 10 years I've been on this side of the sex trade, I have worked and spoke to sex buyers, traffickers, victims, victims who are children, adult victims, service providers, law enforcement, juvenile case managers, probation officers. What kind of system needs all of those people to keep folks alive and to protect them? I don't know. But it is not what it may seem. Not every man you get in a car with or go into the room with washes properly. Rachel Moran is a survivor from Ireland. She wrote a book called Paid For. She's a brilliant woman. She recognizes the term she uses for prostitution as paid rape. Where is the consent if you don't have money to pay your rent, but you have this corner you can go stand on, or you have somebody who will take you out there, or you have a man jumping into your inbox on Facebook. This issue is becoming more brazen. It's done out in the public. I'm so thankful again for the response that Multnomah County, JR, his leadership around this issue. I'm just very thankful. And I really hope, that we continue in Oregon to address it this way, hold the perpetrators accountable, protect the victims, protect the people who are bought and sold, whether they are choosing to be out there, if they identify as sex workers or trafficked people, or protect them. But make sure we keep accountability where it belongs on the people who are buying and selling.
So if you folks have some questions, yeah, sure, fire away at either one.
Just to clarify what's in the envelopes, can you give
Sure.
me kind of a description of what you're sending out?
Yeah, so it's a cover letter from our office describing the program from the U.S. Department of Justice. And it's not only a link to that program, but the actual forms in case people don't have access to the internet to make sure that they can apply for this program. And so you can see they're thick envelopes because we wanted to make sure that we reduce the amount of boundaries for individuals receiving these, that they could actually just take that envelope, fill it out, and send it in.
Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when the FBI and the federal government shut down Backpage, they seized their assets. And at the end of Backpage's sort of reign on the internet, in order to advertise or to sell someone on their website, you would have to pay. It started out as cash and it moved to Bitcoin. And so there were funds that the FBI seized, I believe both cash and assets and Bitcoin, that they are turning around and repaying to victims of trafficking that were exploited on their website.
You think there's, if I wrote down correctly, about 1,200 people in the county?
I believe there's a little bit more than 1,200 that we identified through cases that we've worked and investigations. There are plenty more victims that are not represented in this pile of envelopes, both juveniles and adults that were trafficked on Backpage.com. This was one of multiple approaches we are taking to get the word out to those individuals in our community. And in fact, I guess a website, anyone can look at mcda.com or mcda.us, mcda.us, and go on our website, and they will see not only the same things that are in these envelopes, but also links to the webpage that explains this through the federal government, as well as there is a group of attorneys that are working pro bono to help advocates apply for this program. And there's a link on our website. There will be a link on our website that will lead victims and survivors to that area as well.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I'd like to also add that, while we see 1,200 or so victims and survivors represented here, we may be missing those that have passed away, those who have died in the sex trade or from other reasons, and maybe even some of the envelopes here are, folks have passed away. The remission is also open for families of victims to apply for. So if they lost a loved one who was trafficked and bought and sold off the website, they are also able to apply for compensation.
And the program is called Backpage Remission. Find government form. And JR, maybe you also want to talk about, while we're doing this locally, this is a national program, right?
Absolutely. This is a national program. And what we saw when we heard that this came out is, what a better way for us to serve the community, to be victim form and trauma centered, than to use our resources to get this information out.
Backpage was shut down in 2018?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. From 2004 to 2018. Yes.
So would it be fair to say that DA's offices around the country are all participating in this?
I don't know that at all. I have not heard of a DA's office participating in this like we are. I think that they can, right? This is open to everyone. We just felt that it was important for us, having a human trafficking team and working closely with advocates and law enforcement and survivors and victims, that we felt it was more than just letting them try to navigate the internet themselves and trying to find it, that we thought we would take a proactive approach to get this word out to individuals.
So these are going out to Multnomah County, people attached to Multnomah County cases.
That's correct.
But someone hearing this in Washington County, Clackamas County, Yamhill County, whatever,
Absolutely.
their DA might not be involved, but they can still go on the website and apply because it's a federal program.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Or in Seattle or
Yep,
Chicago.
Absolutely.
This is the only only response like this that I've heard of. I actually, when I this first opened up to the public, I called JR just because we have this longstanding, professional relationship and working together for so many years that he would be interested in it. And his immediate response was like, how can we get this news out? How can we? And that is the only response I've ever seen this man come into this work with. And that is not the case. I have been, not on the East Coast, trafficked on the East Coast, but in the areas that I was, this is not the same way we were met. I'm hoping that this launches a nationwide effort. And there's still so many victims and survivors who are missing. There are victims and survivors incarcerated in prison across this country for crimes that they maybe also did while they were being trafficked. And how do we just need to make sure everybody has an opportunity to file a claim.
I wanted to mention one thing because I think it's worth saying. There is a deadline on this claim, which is in February of next year. And so we also thought that it was timely to make sure that we could get this word out.
And these cases that are represented in the examples, how recent and how old are they?
Right. What we did is we searched all cases between 2004 and 2018 to make sure we covered those individuals. It may mean that we missed some in the mailings, and that's why we're doing sort of a multifaceted approach to make sure we can get the word out to those individuals that we, right? Anything from have a different address that we're not aware of to may not be incorporated in the 1,200 or so that we were able to search quickly.
Maybe one of you also just want to comment on, in this day of scams, we want people to know this is real.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like one of the things we wanted to do is make sure that people understood that this is official, right? This is something where the federal government has an official website. There are official documents that are needed. And that's why one of the links that we are going to provide on our website is a link towards legal help so that you can speak. If you have questions about those things, you can speak with an attorney who's versed in these things and can help you navigate through the process.
Does this whole operation, obviously we're talking about the victims here, but is there anything you can comment on regarding what is being potentially pursued for potential perpetrators that were on Backpage?
Sure. So our office is always open to holding individuals accountable. You've heard me mention multiple times in this meeting that we not only focus on traffickers, people who exploit both children and adults, but also buyers, the people who create the demand in order to allow traffickers to function and recruit both children and adults. So absolutely. These also represent victims of cases we have prosecuted, victims of cases that we have prosecuted both the buyers and the traffickers. And so we try to do our best to identify victims in cases as well as victims in reports and things of that nature, information we had, to say, when these go out, if you believe that you are a victim of Backpage, please, here's the steps in which to apply for payment.
And then how much money is available in the big pot?
Yeah, I wish I knew that answer. I don't know if the federal government is actually advertising that. Maybe Robin knows?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And there is quite a bit of money. It's between $200 and $250 million seized.
Bitcoin's getting more valuable every day, so the pot's.
Who knows? Where the money's
Oh,
gonna be.
yeah, that part, I'm not hip
Depending
to
on how
that.
they converted it.
Anybody else?
Is there any other, there's obviously the financial element. Is there any sort of legal follow-up for these victims that is part of this process as well?
So this program is only sort of the financial aspect, but absolutely. I mean, there is a broad statute of limitations, I would say, for criminal cases. And our office is always open to speak with victims, with advocates, with treatment providers to help victims get the justice they want, need, or even information they want as to what happens if I would like to pursue criminal charges against an individual. The DA's office is focused on criminal charges. There are law firms and attorneys that focus on civil penalties. And just like any other victims of some sort of crime or harm, I'm sure there are options civilly as well, but our office focuses on the criminal aspects of that. But absolutely, we have always been open to holding people accountable by speaking with victims when they're ready to, when they want to see some justice done for the people who exploited them, purchased them, and sold them, either as children or adults.
I can attest to that. I've been in the room and had folks on my caseload for over 10 years that were involved in cases like this as victims and co-defendants. And again, the atmosphere that is created by the district attorney's office and law enforcement, the sex trafficking unit at Portland Police have done, I mean, it's like nowhere else. It's never was like that anywhere for me on the streets. The support, there's no, like, they don't press them. The victim, survivor always gets to leave. And you probably noticed we talk about victim and survivor. Survivor is language that obviously is more empowering, but for legal matters and cases, the term victim is always what's used.